Hi everyone, today is Wednesday, December the 7th, 2022, and today I want to take a moment to answer a question that was posed by someone named Disness, or rather screen named Disness, on the Veneco 64 channel. And the question was something like, and I'm sort of paraphrasing here, for someone who already has some exposure to gold and silver, what investments would you recommend to reduce the risk of being exposed to the fiat currency? And then part two of that was, are there any such investments that can be held within a 401k or an IRA? So now this is a very sort of US specific type of an answer, and so I wanted to share whatever research I've done on this, because this is something that that we all kind of struggle with here in the States, right? So the 401k is something that you have the ability to set aside a certain amount of your monthly paycheck on an annual basis. You set that aside, and then sometimes the company gives you a percentage match also, and you set that aside and you get to deduct that amount from your annual salary. And so what that does is, suppose your taxes would be at a higher bracket, you can set aside some amount, that maximum amount, and reduce your overall taxable income, so you don't pay tax now, but you pay it later when you're older, and presumably, that's important, presumably at a lower tax bracket. And if you keep it in a 401k, when you work at a company, you have to keep it in a 401k. When you quit or you change companies, you can roll that over tax-free. You can roll that over into an IRA, which is which you can dictate whether you want that to be managed yourself or actively managed. I would never recommend active management by somebody else. You manage it yourself. It's the best thing, personally. I personally believe in that, but that's the IRA option. But then if you withdraw, then you have to pay the tax on it, because remember, it was income that you had not paid tax on in the first place, right? So you pay tax on that, plus you pay a penalty. And I think the penalty, personally, and you'll have to watch one of my videos called DTC or Delaware Trust Company, or DTC or DTCC is the name. Look up in my my videos. I think it was a question that I had answered in December or so of last year. Was it December last year? No, it was more recent. But anyways, that's a question that I answered for somebody, because the research I did on that bit, the DTC thing, was that whole 401k IRA thing is like a Ponzi, where as long as inflation and someone is filling the pot from before, it's okay, but once it's not, we're done. So okay, so I guess the thing with the IRA and the 401k is, why would you benefit from a 401k and IRA? It's only because you're making the assumption that later when you take the money, then your tax rate will be lower. But there are some other assumptions too that you're making that are implicit, which are that if you die, then your descendants will get the money, and that it will not be denominated in central banking digital currency tokens that can get programmed and taxed at source 90% or 100% or whatever, or just turned off and confiscated upon a person's passing, right? We're not making those assumptions. We're making the assumption that every human, right, we make assumptions that things will be honorable, or things will be as we have seen them as we've been growing up. And that's for good or for bad. Whether if you saw a system that was completely dishonorable, you may take certain defensive positions, as I have. So okay, so that was the question. how, if somebody already has gold and silver, what else, right? Well, so I've done quite a bit of research on this, and I wanted to share some of the things I've looked into. So, and I'm assuming this person is only interested in knowing all the like the 401k IRA type of options, and not the non-IRA options. But whatever, maybe I'll talk about both of them. So, if you have gold and silver, but you don't have platinum, do consider that, okay, first thing. And I personally have a massive bias pro platinum, but that's my view, because I've been tracking, I think I've been tracking platinum for far longer than I've even been interested in gold. I know that sounds weird, but yeah, I love platinum. So yeah, so there's a little bit of emotional bias in there also, but no, platinum is the one actually, in my view. So if you don't have gold and if you have exposure to gold and silver, physical, custodied, but not platinum, do consider platinum. Now, implicit in your question is that you are looking for non-correlated bets, right? But the problem, the problem I have with all sort of in-system assets is that they are all convertible back in the same currency, right? And if the currency itself is changing from whatever, paper, fiat, whatever, to paper fiat or digital fiat, but if it's changing from paper to digital, as the Federal Reserve has already said, then by definition, upon redemption, everything is changed to this digital system, right? And that's essentially what I have a problem with. So, step number one is open up an Excel spreadsheet. And if you don't use Excel, and actually I would recommend for this exercise, maybe don't use Excel, maybe go old school, use a paper and pen and calculator in your head. List out line by line all your assets on a paper, okay? So you're keeping it completely off grid. This calculation is nothing that will be uploaded to any cloud or whatever. You keep it on a paper, you write down all of your land, house, whatever, anything, okay? If you have gold, silver, all that, if you have stocks, list those out. So the first column will have all of your assets, all of the things that you have. Then the second column, you list out the quantity, okay? Because so when I look at stocks, I don't think of stocks as these many thousand. I think of how many units of the stock that I have. So you put that in the next column, and then the next one you put in and there's a reason I'm telling you to do this, okay? The next one is the price as of today, or the lowest price of the last 1 year. And I would suggest like for gold or metals, etc., you put them at the acquisition price if the acquisition price is like much lower than the present price. So my rule of thumb is on any kind of prices, put the lower price, because that way and then you multiply each thing and you come up with your total number, your net worth, quote unquote, right? And why do I say put the lower off, or acquisition, or if today's price is lower, then put that one, because that way you are mentally understating your assets, you're not overstating them, and like in a sense like counting chickens before they hatched, or counting something that may not actually be. You're being extremely conservative in your calculation of your assets. So you do that. Now, why did I say put in quantities? Because for some things like gold and silver and platinum, you would want to count the quantities. So, you know, how many grams of this do I have? Don't count the paper price and the spot price and BS. You count the grams of that as a separate thing for your own information, because it's important to know, for like reset purposes. Okay, so then you do your entire, like, you know, your net worth calculation, and then you do a, like, you know, divide each line by the total number, and you ascertain what is your percentage of each allocation. Okay, so like what percentage of your assets is your home, without mortgage, I'm saying. What percentage of it is, you know, in metals, in your 401k, IRA, in any other brokerage that you have, whatever. Your bank balance, your cash balance. Also, the way I look at cash is I count one unit as one, and then I, you know, write the number, the dollar figure there, because that way I'm counting. I know it sounds silly to say, like, oh, you're counting your own exchange rate as one, but again, it's the quantities, right? So, or rather flip that. So the value is $1, like, and your quantities are how many dollars you have in your account, right? So anyway, so moving on to the next step, then you calculate your percentages. When you calculate that percentage, you will see what your real exposure is to you know, to metals or not. And at that point, then you think further about, hey, do I have sufficient exposure or not? Because sometimes, because physical things are physical and digital things are digital, and we can't, like, you know, we don't have them in front of us. Like, we, and my own bias, we think that we may have more in by way of metals than we actually do, because something is a physical object as opposed to a you know, digital ephemeral things. So when you do that, you will see maybe how small your allocation is, and whether or not you want to change that. Okay, now step number 2. So correlated, non-correlated things. There are, sure, a lot of non-correlated things, whether that is uranium, whether that is energy, whether that is, you know, silver, platinum, all these. And I'm talking like in digital form, right? My energy just goes down even thinking about that, because I'm only thinking about like the convertibility part, and once it's convertible back, right? It's at that point that the rubber meets the road, and you discover that everything that you worked for is always denominated in the currency of your country. And now that is a problem. So what do you do? Okay, so one is, sure, you know, you can limit your exposure by looking into a precious metals IRA. I have done that research. So one is, so I've looked at a few different things. Okay, one is New Directions IRA. You can go on the SD bullion, SD, you know, like Silver Doctors Bullion. You go to sdbullion.com. Look up. They have a section there. I called them. I spoke with them. They're good. Their storage fees, though, are high in my opinion. Okay, and plus, you know, there's always that risk of the government changing the rules and saying, yeah, you can't actually take the metal. You have to take the digital conversion. So. And by the way, you have to pay a phenomenal amount of tax, because like, you know, those kind of like windfall gains type of taxes, that sort of thing. Nevertheless, and there are a few more options I'll talk about, but let me say something about the the precious metals IRA thing. So I know somebody who navigated that thing really, really well. Here's what they did. They bought like all silver, okay, all allocated silver in their precious metals IRA. Then they turned they turned 59 or whatever. You know, they became of the age where you don't have to pay the penalty anymore. And at that time, silver had gone down from $12 an ounce to $5 an ounce. And they didn't take a paper, they took a paper loss, but they didn't take a loss, as in they didn't sell the metal and you know, and lock in their losses. What they did is they took full delivery of the metal, okay, and they took a loss on their IRA, because you see, like, suppose you save up $120,000, and then you take your full distribution after you're of the eligible age, but now it is worth only $50,000. You see, $12, $15, $12, $5, so $120K to $50K. So they took their distribution, they took their loss, quote unquote loss, and they just held their metal themselves, and then, you know, they sell it little by little, piecemeal, to wherever, you know, whichever coin shops buy coins like that, and they make their money that way. That's, I think, brilliant, genius, and that's, I think, the best way to go, because they took a paper loss, but they didn't take an actual loss, right? That is where it's important. Now, so I would say that may be a good option for like a short term, I'm saying, because it depends how old you are. If you're like 30 and you have to wait, 25 years, Jesus, I wouldn't, because then you are assuming that after 25 years the government will allow you to take metal delivery. I don't think that will still be allowed in 25 years, my view. The second thing is, you're assuming that there won't be some massive windfall tax post I'm saying post reset, because in some way we are actually in it right now, and people like this, they always like to stage things very slowly, so that people don't get like, all of this at once and we all jump out and revolt at one time. So so if it's a short-term thing, that's a good option. New Directions, I think, was the name of that vendor, and by the way, I looked at like 2-3 different vendors. I spoke with them on the phone. I always like to kind of do that one-on-one, in-person type of check of their vibe and how they are. And of the few that I spoke with, this place seemed the most kosher. So I would say, go to the SD Bullion site and look into that, and schedule a call and just see if you get a vibe of them being reliable and trustworthy. Because that was my personal vibe that I got. But again, that's my vibe. That may not be something that you pick up on. So check out that company. Another one that I saw was another person who I spoke with. He's the CEO. God, I'm blanking on his name. Is it Jason or something? I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his name. He's the CEO of Pure Gold, PUREGOLD. Go to this guy's channel. His name is Francis Hunt, and he has 3 channels. It's the Market Sniper, the Crypto Sniper, the Reset Sniper, and the websites are allthatbest.com. Look him up, and he has interviewed the guy as well. I came across this guy who runs Pure Gold through Francis Hunt. Well, we scheduled a call. This guy and I, whose name, damn it, I feel so bad when I blank on someone's name. But you speak to someone. You speak. Well, I spoke to the CEO directly. I think he was a really good guy. The thing with the option, with the interesting options that company Pure Gold has, is, well, first of all, the structures that you can create. And again, you should look more into Francis Hunt to get the proper details about that. But what is cool about this guy's firm is that you can hold things in one depository in so say in Austin, or not say Austin, they have one presence in Texas, one in London, and one somewhere in Asia, I think, and maybe another one in some like Caribbean place that I didn't quite like. I tuned off that one because like that's not my jam. But here's what's cool about that is the depositories are in these different places, which means and there's this old Chinese proverb, a rabbit should always have 3 burrows. So this way, if you have sufficient exposure in your home country and you need to flee jurisdiction, you have the ability to access your wealth in a different jurisdiction. And that was what I got from the Pure Gold CEO, and the conversation with him is jurisdictional risk. That's what you safeguard yourself from. So that was another one option. And then there was another option I looked into that was not available to me in the state where I live. It is because I live in the state of California. CACHE, Cash Gold. Now, you may or may not like their model. I thought it was good for if something's going to be on the grid, may as well. But they have the similar sort of thing where they'll have metal in Nevada, in some other place, and in Singapore. Their vaults. Was it Switzerland was the third? I think Switzerland was the third. Anyways, it was not available to me in the state of California. But the thing is, so they hold all your stuff, and you have to, of all these things, right, because they're allocated, they have a fee. They charge you a fee per year and per gram or ounce. Like, so it goes by weight of how much metal you're asking them to hold for you. The good thing with this one was also that jurisdictional thing. But the other thing was that, and this is where I'm saying you may or may not like this, it's held on the blockchain, so fully transparent. Now, what does that mean? It means that since everything is fully transparent, tracked and traced, see, part of the point of holding metal is that it is nobody's effing business. That is the whole point, right? So that transparency, it can be a problem if you're like, fuck this. Like, I mean, the whole point is for the whole fucking world to not know what I have or don't have, right? But if you don't care about that, and it's already on ledger, and it's already, in an IRA and 401k and whatever, and you're already like, new stuff, then whatever, it makes no difference. So that Cash Gold was another good option. Another one, this is another way of holding grams instead of like cash balances, was actually something on Mario's channel himself. He has a Glint, and I have no affiliation with them. I think he has some kind of promo code or something that I did use actually when I opened a Glint account. So but you can do Glint. They send you a MasterCard, and you can store your savings in grams and then switch it to dollars, or dollars back to grams. But again, over there, you are relying on the paper price, right? The spot price of metal. So, and if the spot price of metal gets managed downward by, these brilliant geniuses who keep selling gold contracts short, then you're not getting the benefit of your foresight, basically. So yeah, so that's the other thing. And also this is fine for a savings account, or not savings account, like a checking account, but it's not you can't do that, like it's not an IRA or a post-retirement eligible thing. Okay, now this is where that, you know, the percentages that I was talking about, that spreadsheet or the calculation in a book comes in handy, because when you look at your percentages, right, you can always keep track of what percentage am I keeping at risk, meaning within the grid, within the system, versus what percentage of this is in and by the way, in those columns, let me finish my sentence. What percentage of this is off-grid / hard currency. So, and also in these columns you can add another column that says, like, you know, is this like a hard real thing or a soft digital thing, right? And then you can run another equal to subtotal percentages and figure out how much of your exposure is to these soft digital things versus how much of your exposure is to real things. Okay, and that's very important, because when you discover, or when that awakening happens and you see that like 70 or 80% of your life is digital and only 20% is like real, hard, physical, you go, holy shit, I am so exposed to all the counterparty risk in the system, right? So that's where it becomes very important to run that table and run that calculation in all these different ways with all these different parameters. And yeah, if you by now are thinking, gee, you're a real geek to like do this. Well, I have been a finance person. My MBA is in finance. Sure, I'm studying psychology now, but my full base of training is in finance. And so this is like breathing to me in a way. Yeah. So anyways, so this is where it's important to do that calculation. Now, for me personally, I feel like 20%, 20 to 25%. Personally, I've kept my calculation 23%. Don't ask why 2, 3. I don't know whether it was a Fibonacci thing or a what thing, but I've kept my allocation at 23%, which means 23% soft, 23% digital. Yeah, some might say that that's a very low percentage, but personally, I think that is the only percent of assets, quote unquote, that I will allow the system to steal from me. So yeah, 23% is my number, but your comfort level may be whatever your comfort level is. Now what you do is, oh, what happened in my window? Oh, okay, whoa, that startled me. So that was yeah, so oh yeah, my leg touched the window. Jesus. Okay. So now, okay, here's the other. So now suppose you're saying to yourself, okay, you know, yeah, I have too high of an exposure. I want to reduce my 401k exposure or IRA exposure, but now how do I do this? What do I do without having to pay the penalty? Now there are some options there also. So one option is if you go to the irs.gov website and you type in like what are the exceptions to like, you know, exceptions to not having to pay the penalty, and you look that up, you will see a bunch of exceptions. There are a lot of IRS exceptions. One is to pay for higher education. So, you know, rather than doing a FAFSA student loan or whatever for your kids, you can just, you know, take a drawdown from that, and, you know, and you'll have to still pay the income tax, because remember, that is a deferred income tax from your previous days, right? So you'll still have to pay that income tax, but you won't have to pay the penalty. In the future, if the tax rate is higher, which I think it is, which I think it will be, then you're coming out ahead. If it's not, then you made a wrong call. But whatever. So yeah. So that's one. So look up all the exceptions, and anytime you meet the qualification for an exception, do that. Do that to the point where you get to a point in your personal spreadsheet where you are comfortable with the allocations of on-grid, off-grid, hard, soft, which metal, line by line, and how, right? So yeah, so look up the exceptions. There are lots of them. For example, okay, even if you pay for healthcare, so suppose you don't work and you pay or suppose you stop working, say you get laid off or something, okay? And I was going to say God forbid, but then I was like, sometimes it's a good thing. But so suppose you got laid off, and you know, because all of your other stuff is hard currency off grid, you on paper have nothing, so you're poor. So you can you know, file your taxes as a poor person and take the benefits of the same by filing a nice you know, your tax return can have your like hardship of like, hey, yeah, you had to take a little bit of a drawdown from your IRA if you want to pursue higher education, if you want to give a donation. You know, there are ways to even, like, you can create a foundation. Though okay, those are all enough said type things. But you should look at this guy's channel, actually, Francis Hunt. Check him out, seriously. Check out his community also. See if you want to be a part of his community also. The folks there are really, really nice. And yeah, and see how you can manage that so that you have as low of a tax burden, while still sort of, you know, preserving your independence and freedom, because ultimately that is what it is about, isn't it? It is about maintaining your own personal individual sovereignty. That is what it's really about, because that is, I mean, in my view at least, that is what wealth buys: your freedom, and your autonomy and your sovereignty. That's what wealth buys. So. And wait, there was a very important thing also that I was going to suggest. Was it not meant to be said? Yeah, maybe it wasn't. So, yeah, because the thought literally just flew out of my mind. But yeah, so there are a lot of options that you can look into. Oh yeah, on the non-correlated bets. Oh yeah, this is what I was going to say. And okay, so I guess it was meant to be said. So this is a viewpoint that Mario may not agree with, and that's fine, you know, because we all have different thoughts, right? So my view is that if you are going to keep something in the system, then keep the things, or keep in the system what the system is promoting anyways, right? So what is the system promoting? The system is promoting going digital. The system is promoting ESG. The system is promoting, you know, all kinds. Well, and again, like right now the market is super inflated, so you can hold it as cash, right? But the system, the full-on system is pro state bonds, okay? State bonds, muni bonds, not the other bonds. The state will favor green bonds, okay? It's the same bullshit, but with a green cover, basically. They don't actually give a shit about the environment, okay? They only want to gather more money into their ambit to boost up more their fractional reserve, whatever, okay? So I don't believe that they really give a shit about the environment, but If that's the train they're on and you want to get on that train, get on that train. Okay. So green bonds, muni bonds, ESG, water, resources, but be careful with the resources. I'm not so much of like the mining thing and all that, because you never know. Again, everything that's on the system and windfall tax, that sort of thing. So my view is, whatever you play in the system, whatever you keep on the system, play in the system. Whether that is blockchain, whether that is, real digital metaverse, gaming, BS, and all those kinds of things, ride those waves. And because I have very simple rule. If whatever game you're playing, right, you play the rules of that game, and you decide what percentage of your mind share you want to give to a certain game, and then you abide fully in that game. Like, don't play in the in the on-grid game and try to say gold go up and this, that, mining and this, no, but that system wants to shut down all of these things or impose windfall taxes. So you're in that game, play that game. And if you believe in this game, then decide your bets and play in that game. You see? Don't try to play that game. Don't play by the rules of that game in this game, and vice versa. So that's my view on that. That's what I wanted to say. And again, very, very hardcore, like people who have very strong integrity, like Mario does. I don't think he would fully agree with that viewpoint of mine, but that's just my view. So, like, if you want to do GBTC, that whatever, I don't even know what they are. I don't have any of them, just full disclosure. But if you think, oh, that one's going up, if you think MicroStrategy, if you think Roblox, if you think whatever play, or Ethereum, anything, okay, as you do your research and determine what plays are good plays, where is the system going, and you decide you want to align with the system for 23% of your funds, you do that. If you decide, no, they're not even, they may be, or biotech, okay, if you if you decide like a certain percentage of you thinks that's where the dark forces will go, and that's what I should align with, and you go there, whatever. No judgment on my part. And you know what, because nobody should have any right to offer their judgments anyways, though everybody will, right? Because we are thinking, judging, discerning humans. That's what we will do. But these are your own private decisions, and you can do with it as you like. So yeah, so I hope this was helpful and useful. I gave you a lot of range of things, but I think the most important one is to definitely do that allocation spreadsheet type of calculation, because that will really open your eyes about the true allocations that you may or may not have. Okay. Thank you again. Thanks for listening. And if you have any other questions, feel free to ask in the comments. Take care. Bye.